been so for the last 10 years. So, I've been invited down here because of this book, which is containing some of the stories that we've done over the last, 10 years. So, if I stay like over here, then most of you can see. Okay, so 10 years I've been a duck artist, and I started out, now I just turned 50, so when I turned 40 10 years ago, Donald Duck was then 70. And now, of course, June 9th, Donald Duck turned 80. So going back to 1934, that was the same, you see the premiere of the movie, the Little Wise Hen, was the 9th of June 1934. So that's really the birth of Donald Duck, or as the Germans say, Donald Duck. And at the same time, in 1934, there was a magazine that saw the light of day in France called Journal de Mickey. And that's really the first proper European Disney comic. And it is really one of the first comic books in the whole of the world, and has been the basic for so many other comic books. And me being a part of the sort of the French-Belgian tradition with Asterix and Spirou and all that, it really started with these kind of magazines. And what's interesting for me now as a duck man, these magazines looked like this 80 years ago. Today it looks like these. And these are all stories that I've made. So I made these with different Norwegian, mainly Norwegian writers. We have put up our own production team, and these are written by a guy called Terje Nordberg, living in California. And we are working in English, of course, being the lingua franca. So our stories will look like this when we're working on it. And this is, of course, total chaos, where Donald and these cars that are, they're behaving like cows, more like cars than cows or bulls. So Terje and I have made several stories, and they all look like this when we are doing them. Apart from that, I never have any text in the balloons, of course, but we are working in sort of American English. And for me, having lived in London for many years, it's really hard to write color without the U, it's really tough. But over the last 10 years, you could say that we have our own kind of production, which is under the flag of this sort of Nordic flair to our storytelling. And we are always focusing upon, this little duck, yeah? And the little duck living in a hard and harsh and difficult world, And this is really something that has a great appeal to everybody in the sort of northern parts of Europe, where we are in a sort of Protestant. We all know that the world is hard and rough and tough, and we all feel sometimes like this little duck lost in a big world. The way we're working is, well, at any time I have more than 10 different stories going at different levels of fulfillment. So it's like we have lots of ideas going. Like this is a pitch, we call it. It's the plot. you should be able to tell all you need to tell about the story well within an A4 page. So this is how it all starts out. And we send that to our editors in Copenhagen, because Egmont has its own production company called ECC, situated in Copenhagen, Denmark. So after we've had an okay for our plot, we do a synopsis, or we go straight to manuscripts. And the manuscripts are really written like that. And as you can see, probably, it's actually written in Norwegian, but all the dialogue is in American English. And then I do my work. First I do my work in plotting the whole story with the ideas and stuff. And we do that on email. And even though this guy who's written this manuscript is a childhood friend of mine called Tormod Løkling. And Tormod and I grew up together making comics, have done so for the last, God knows, 45 years. We are communicating via email. So when I get a manuscript like that, I do lots of changes. And then I start out doing what is really the most important thing, that is the scribbles. So I scribble the whole story, and that's when the real work begins. So when we are pleased with how the scribbles are working, telling the story, that's when I finally start sort of the icing of the cake, the actual drawing of the story. And that's just a minute little part of the whole process. So I work on Schollahammer, of course, German quality of drawing paper. And I work in different kind of colored pencils, and I ink it with different kinds of anything from the old nib you dip in ink, or just different kinds of markers. So here you can see even more of the pencil. And it's all put together in Photoshop, where you can see the text. The text will, of course, not appear in the originals that are being sent around the world, because all of these stories are printed God knows where. I have no idea where my stories are printed. So it's always nice coming here to Germany. It's, you know, oh, you know about that story, and now I've been signing for God knows how many hours. And people are coming up to me about, you know, this and this story, and I didn't know it was out in Germany. So it all started with Tormod and I doing some one-pagers, and this is the first one-pager I've done with Donald Duck. And this sketch is actually this size. I mean, it'll fit in your telephone, you know, a smartphone. And I always do the first scribbles, I do them as small as possible. And that is because that will leave only room for the important things that you need to have in the story. You don't lose yourself in lots of details, and of course it's a very nice way to avoid having a dilemma of whether you should kill your darlings, you know? You have made a nice drawing, but the drawing doesn't fit the story, so you really should, you know, kill your darling. But, you know, sometimes that's quite hard. So when we are agreeing upon how the story is, how the scribbles are, then I do proper inking like this. So this is really the first one. This is in Norwegian. It's Donald trying to get his nephews to clean his room, and trying to persuade them by making it into a computer game. And but of course, you know, they are not tricked into anything, and they are still playing their computer games while the uncle is cleaning the room. This is the second one page that we did. But as I say, it all starts with, or the main work is in these kind of scribbles. And this scribble is, again, I mean, it's this size. And this is something that I did while visiting Hamburg and Lübeck. I'll come back to that. And I did that, the whole story, this is 10-pager, I did that while traveling. Just as I do now when I'm here with you. I've been up like, well, I went to bed around 1 o'clock last night. I was up at 7. I'm working on 2 or 3 different stories now. And apart from doing lots of other, illustrations and stuff. So that's basically what I do. I do work around the clock. So this is how it looked like in black and white ink, and when it's colored it may look like this. So this is about the nephews. What's that? Tick, Trick and Track? Yeah. So they are going into the dinosaur museum of Duckburg, and it's a little bit like Jurassic Park. Yeah. And okay, there's one thing I must do this. Do you understand English?
Yes.
Yes, a little bit. Yes. What's your name?
Bila.
Bila.
Bila, yeah.
Okay. Could you come up here? So, inside your body, you can turn around. Turn around. Inside your body, your body is put together with sort of small parts, which we call cells. Yes. And within each cell, you have something we call DNA, which is really how the body is supposed to put the cells together. Okay? Do you know how many cells you have in your body? 2, 5, 6, 8? No. You have around 50 billion cells. Okay? Within each cell, you have, like this, a thread of DNA, right? So within each cell, you have a DNA thread that is 2 meters long. So, you being German, of course you're good at maths. So, if we take all the DNA threads in his body and we put it, as one big line, yeah? How far could we get? Around the world, yes. Do we get to the moon?
Probably.
Yes. Okay, and heading towards the sun. What's the first planet we come to heading towards the sun? Do you remember? If you go... No.
Venus.
Venus. Who was at Venus? You said Venus. Okay, so do we get to Venus?
Yeah.
Sure we do. We do get to Venus. And what's the last planet before heading into the sun? It's called...
Mercury.
Yes, Mercury! Very well. So, do we come to Mercury? With the, just the DNA threads from your body?
Yes.
Yes! And if we don't get burned by the sun, we can get all the way to the sun. All the threads from his body, okay? All the way to the sun. The light will use like 8 minutes to get here from, or from the sun to here. Okay, so, but will we get back to Earth? Okay, we've gone from Earth to the sun, but will we get back home? Unless we are burned to death, of course. But what do you say? You are just sitting there dying, aren't you? It's a black plague. Yes, we do get back. But can we take another trip to the sun? Yes, we can. But do we get back? Yes, we do. Okay, so, do you know, we can get back and forth to the sun with the threads from his body 200 times. Please have a seat and a big applause for his DNA, huh? Fantastic. So what are we talking about? Yeah, the ducks. So there's Tick, Trick and Track. They are hooked upon this idea of, getting these dinosaurs to come alive, just like in the Jurassic Park movie. But Donald is a grown duck, so he knows this is possible. So he is sleeping in the backyard, but then suddenly something comes here. And you can see it's got 2 fingers. So this is, what kind of dinosaur is that? Yes, because it's like, oh, sitting eating, you know, with only 2 fingers. It's like, please, can you pass the kartoffel bitte? You know, like 2 fingers. So here he comes, wakes up Donald. He comes running, seeing that it's a T-Rex in front of his garage. And he really flips. And so he knocks him, and he knocks the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the head, locks him inside the garage, and then he throws away the chemistry set of the boys because he thinks, oh God, the boys have, you know, awoken all these dinosaurs and they will ruin the whole of Duckburg. And Donald is the one who's going to pay for it, right? So here he turns after throwing the chemistry set in the river and saying that, oh, now I'm rid of all the dinosaurs. And there they are. So this is all about, of course, it's they are all the rich and wealthy and all the powerful people of Duckburg. They have this costume party, all being dressed like dinosaurs, of course. And of course, it's the mayor that Donald has locked away in the garage. So it's that kind of typical 10-pager with Donald Duck, you know, doing something that he shouldn't be doing and making, you know, big troubles for himself, having to run away to, well, what do you call that in Norwegian? It's Timbuktu or far away Stan or whatever. So I do the covers when I do the main stories in the magazine. I do always the covers. Otherwise, I only do the ideas, the scribbles. I have done that for the last 10 years. I've done scribbles like these, and that's for the printing of at least the Scandinavian Nordic magazines, the weeklies of Donald Duck. And if the colors are important, I will do color sketches like that in Photoshop. And here it's finalized by a great guy called Paco Rodriguez in Barcelona, Spain. Otherwise, if there's something special, like here it's one of the classics with barks, I will do the whole cover and I will color it myself in Photoshop and leaving it like that.
How long does it take to colorize one cover?
It'll be like, God knows, it depends how much time I have, which I don't. So we're talking about a cover I would color in Photoshop in like, you know, half a day, like 4 or 5 hours or something. I work quite quickly because there's so much work to be done. And so, yeah, this is issue number 3000 of the Danish Donald Duck Weekly. Here goes the same for the Norwegian. And this is something we do, I don't know if it's printed down here, but I do calendars, Christmas calendars. I've done that for the last, well, nearly 10 years. And then I work with, first coming up with the idea, some kind of a situation where I can show the different characters of Duckburg and how they are relating to each other, their personality. So I try to come up with situations like these where I can show most of the people, like Gyro, the inventor, and he's his little helper, of course. So if he is here in the bathtub, you know, he's just down here in the little hand wash basin. So here's Donald making a surprise entry down the chimney. Big success as always. This was a kind of a riddle, trying to figure out who stole the star on top of the Christmas tree in Duckburg. And I did, yeah, this one I had, Don Yippers, a dear friend of mine, who helped me out with the pencils for this one, because I was running short of time. This one I did last year. And it's all trying to find something that is very particular to each character. And with these Christmas calendars, I'm just now working on, you know, this Christmas calendar. And other types of calendars are like these, where you get the drift. And of course, Scrooge, Dagobert, will always win, because he's got the lucky one dime, you know, his first dime there. And I do lots of other illustrations if I have the time. Like here, I did Gyro here. And I have a separate career as, you know, illustrator, and so I've done lots of book covers. So here I've actually mixed together a couple of book covers that I've done for different publishers, because Tormod at this time was the editor of the Norwegian Donald Duck magazine, so he needed a pirate illustration right away. So I just, you know, I'm working on Macintosh, so I Mac it together. I somehow made that in just some hours from old book covers that I've done. And in the Nordic magazines we have these pages from Guinness Book of Records, and then I do illustrations, or did at least, illustrations like this Italian guy who had the world record of bicycling underwater. So, and you see he's drinking a lot. It's important not to be dehydrated when you're cycling. And here's a guy who found the biggest, what do you call it, what do you call it, turn into stone, protophine.
Fossilized.
Fossilized, no, not fossilized, but it's mainly, well anyway, that's it, thank you. Dinosaur shit, which was like this size, yeah? So I thought that would be like in a dinosaur toilet. Talking about shit, here's the Americans, you know, they're up to lots of stuff. And throwing cow shit like over 81 meters. Hooray for the Americans. This is Monsieur Mange Tout, who is known to have eaten a whole plane, you know. And I've been living in London, as I said, for many years, so this I know all about. This is a British guy who has the world record of burping loudest. He's burping as loud as Metallica concerts. So it's quite impressive. Other kinds of illustrations that I've done for the magazines are these kind of stuff, which is explaining how oxygen is being created on Earth. And you are in the middle of the big Wende, you know, with green energy and all that. So go, 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 Germany. Because this is really, the green plants are oxygen factories for us. And here I'm trying to explain how tornadoes are formed. And I don't know if you wondered about that, but why the heck is the sky blue? I mean, the sun looks yellow, so why is the sky blue, you know? So it's all because of these gas particles that are spreading the light. The light comes in as white, of course, you know, and then these molecules, they are spreading the blue light waves. So that's why it's just like a blue umbrella above us. Talking about this kind of science stuff, 2 years back we had stories connected to different kinds of sciences. So here we are inside the body of a sick Duckburg athlete. So Donald has to get him well, alive and kicking before some kind of a tournament. So he is shrunk into something that can battle these viruses, as you can see here. and he's got medicine here, probably produced in Germany. And we go out of the body and out of the atmosphere and out. You remember us going to the sun? Yeah, going here past Venus, Mercury, into the sun and back. So here I've been working together with. Yeah, and yeah, I must mention, you know, Jupiter you have there, which is really the biggest. That's the boss of our universe or our solar system. So I tried to make the different characters here so that it should be easier for kids to remember the name of the planets and all that. And yes, Pluto is not there, no longer a planet. But the guy here is Christer Fuglesang, which is partly Swedish, Norwegian. He's a real what do you say, astronaut, and I've been working together with him closely on these stories because then we had the ducks traveling on sort of a space travel. And that was great working with him because he really knew how it was to throw up when you have zero what do you say, gravitativity, and it's really nice because it's floating around, you know, so kind of neat. So that is going out in outer space. We've also gone back in time. We've had lots of time travels where the nephews are going back to check, you know, the book that they have. They have to check all the facts, all the historical facts. So here I've made this poster showing the different, you know, important stuff that happened, you know, with United States being formed here, Napoleon, Darwin, Einstein. And here's the birth of Donald Duck, Second World War, the hippies, moon landing. And we start back in with the old Greeks. And here we are in Chile. We have these big drawings in the sand. I mean, like literally miles wide. And this is done like in the 15th or 14th century. So of course there were no aircrafts or anything. So how the heck did they do that? And here's in Tunguska in Siberia in 1908. There was a huge explosion, a meteorite that exploded. And here we are in Amsterdam, where at this time, this was in 1637, there was a big crack in the market for tulips. At this time, one tulip would cost the same as a big mansion. And at February 1637, the market collapsed. So this is the best or the first documented, you know, that kind of financial bubble that really burst in February 1637. Of course, Scrooge and Beagle Boys are going back in time. And we had this kind of pirate story. And we went to China to figure out if there was this Wang Hu, his name was, who was said to have tried to go to the moon just by fixing lots of fire rockets to his chair and lit it. So did he make it to the moon? Yes, no. So Donald is checking up on that as well. So in Norway or the Nordic countries, we have had books, just like the book that's out now, where you have compilations of, they have put together some of these stories that I've been participating in. So the last book was focusing upon these time travel stories. The first book showed how we got started, and this is really the same motive, the same cover that I did with, and I hope, you know, the cover of this book, I don't have it here, but I hope everybody will understand when I'm standing there very victorious, and Donald is looking up on me and going, okay, so you think you're someone, huh? It's all based upon this story, and this cover. Hopefully people will see the humor in it. And of course, my birthplace is Bergen on the west coast of Norway, which is a Hanseatic town. So we have had German Hanseatic merchants living there, sort of separate lives of big parts of the city. And when we were asked by the editor-in-chief of Aku Anka, that's Finnish for Donald Duck, to do a story when Tallinn in Estland and Turku, Åbo, the city south of Finland, were the cultural capitals of the EU some years back. So they asked us to do a story where the ducks were traveling from Tallinn to Turku in the south of Finland. And what was more natural than having them start out in Bergen, being a Hanseatic city, and Tallinn and Turku was Hanseatic as well. So this is the cover of the Norwegian magazine. And this is how they start out sailing from Bergen. And here is the German part of Bergen, which attracts lots of tourists. And it's all about Scrooge finding this old document and finding a sort of it evolves into a treasure hunt where they go to this Marienkirche, this Church of Mary in Bergen. And here I have to do lots and lots of research, remember that. And what do you do when the church you're going to do research in is like this, you know? So, you are, well, I don't live in Bergen anymore. I haven't done that for God knows how many years. But when I was going back visiting my old folks, and I was going to do, you know, the research in that church, I thought that would be easy, right? But as I say, well, as you can see, it was all wrapped in plastic. So anyway, they go from Bergen to Lübeck. So they go from the city between the 7 mountains, as it's called, Bergen is called, to, as I seem to remember, the city of 7 towers. Anybody here from Lübeck? No? Oh wait, you know where it is?
Yeah.
It's really north of Germany, you know? Yes? Sorry. Bavaria is very, very far to the south. But have you been living in Lübeck?
No, I come from Flensburg.
Well, that's close enough.
Yeah.
That's close enough. So the riddle that they have to solve is how to, or where to go when they're going to visit the sister in the city of 7 towers. So going from Mariakirchen in Bergen, they are going to Marienkirchen in Lübeck. So here I went down, as I said before, when sketching out that dinosaur invasion, I flew down to Hamburg and took the train up to Lübeck. And I had already emailed with a professor, and that's so German. So it's Professor Dr. Rolf Hammel-Kissau, which is really the one who knows everything. I really mean it. He knows everything about the Hanseatic period. So it was such a pleasure meeting him, because I'd sent him emails like this, because I don't know, you know, there was a war in the country, yeah, and lots of bombing and stuff going on. So in 1942 or 43, in Easter, the whole of Lübeck looked like this. And in here, in the Marienkirche, I had to find a place that was untouched by the, you know, this bombardment. And I had figured out that maybe the portal here seemed untouched, because when you look at the pictures, you know, it seemed like down here, maybe that would be okay. So I went there with the professor, Dr. Rolf Hamel-Kissau. And yes, up here, this part has been left untouched for the last, 1.5 century. So when doing the originals here, I could draw that, back here at the chapel back there. That's where the clue is for the treasure hunt. And in here, that's the professor. I put him in here, and that's his 2 sons. So the one son, he couldn't care less. He was so bored. He was like, oh. But so that's Hamel-Kissau, and these others are over here. These are the 2 authors, and that's the editor-in-chief from Finland. So they look like this. There's Tormod, dear friend of mine. Knut Nærum, which is, they wrote the stuff together. And this is the Finnish. What's his name again? Well, anyway, the Finnish editor-in-chief. So, and here we go to Tallinn. And these are my the 2 guides that the tourist board of Tallinn gave us. So here are the guides, and Tormod and Jukka Heiskanen, his name, Jukka. So, and here they are being thrown out of one of the world's largest or tallest buildings. For centuries, St. Olav's Church in Tallinn was the world's tallest building. So here they are sailing into Tallinn, and they are ending up in Turku, south of Finland. So these kind of stories are really, really nice to do, because I go to these places, so the research is really so thorough that I know that, okay, if the ducks are going from here to there, this is really what the scenery looks like. And I don't know if you've seen movies from your hometown. It's so annoying when it's a car chase going on, and it's suddenly there, and suddenly there's totally different parts of the city, and this is, I find, very annoying. So if you know London or New York or whatever, and you see a car chase and they end up totally wrong place, I think this is the level of research that I do on the duck stories. So it is what we think, at least, that the duck stories that we are doing is really for intelligent people, intelligent children, and will make them even more intelligent. And these are from this series of books. Here we are working together, Knut, Tormod and I, and here we're working on a different project that we have going, that is Christmas specials, Christmas albums. And here I'm drawing the 313, Donald's car. And that's for the first Christmas album that we had. And this one is printed in the book. So here's a story about the Nordic gods, with Thor losing his hammer, and Loki is the one that has stolen it. And this happened at the same time. Do you remember the volcanoes on Iceland? Making that all the airports were shut down and all that. Yeah. So we combined this. This was done the year after. So we thought, okay, there was a volcano, and the Norse gods had seeken refuge in the volcanoes, and this hammer was being, shot out of the volcano on Iceland, ending up in Duckburg. So this is the fun of it is combining these different universes, Duckburg and the Norse gods. And I thought that this was great being Norwegian myself. It was great having this sort of Duckburg look upon the Norse gods. So here's how I thought maybe Odin and Thor could look like. And it's a kind of a homage to Asterix, which I really love, and I grew up with Asterix. So these kind of things, you know, this is really kind of Asterix thing. And this is how my pencils look like. The second Christmas story was a homage to the old steam engines. And this one we did the year after. Last year we did this story about how the childhood of Scrooge McDuck, Dagobert, was. And he's helping out Brenda, Scottish girl, living at an orphanage. And again, when working with these kind of stories, I really enjoy checking out all the historical facts. So here I have checked out lots of pictures from that period and how it was, you know, way back when all the child labor happened here in Europe and not in Asia, where we actually produce something in Europe and not just in Asia. So, and this is how Glasgow looked like at the time that Scrooge grew up. So then I could do, like, you know, these gas lamps, you know, I could put in things that I really know that were there, like this gas lamp, but still it's interpreted into the Duckburg universe. And the whole story ends up at the steel mill and finding out how these furnitures functioned, making it more believable than when the villain up here is trying to drown and burn poor little Dagobert in this lava of melted steel. So the fun thing is talking about Max und Moritz prize that was given last night. I don't know who won, but in Norway we have our own prize, which is called the Sproing, because of the name of, you know, the spiral here. So that's the Sproing prize of Norway, which we got for that last Christmas story. And that was just like a week ago we received the prize. So that's basically some of the content of the book that's out. I'm going to Holland tomorrow, and Monday I'm going to Tanzania, where I'm holding workshops in visual communication for health organizations. So I'll be away for a week, working, as always, good. And so there won't be much more signing or anything for me this time. But I hope to return to Erlangen in, you know, 2 years or 4 years, I don't know. And I'll go to Vienna or anything, or anywhere, you know, close by. We will see. Okay, I'll do some drawings. That's what most of you have been waiting for. And you are so polite. I mean, you German. I mean, like, you're sitting there nearly falling asleep, and still you're smiling and paying attention, which I really enjoy. And I must say, I've said it many times before, but I go around, you know, a lot doing stuff like this, but it has never ever been as well organized as it has been here in Germany. And it can only be topped by the hospitality. It's been such a pleasure being here. And so I'm really looking forward to coming back either to Erlangen or Munich, maybe. So let's see. I normally do some duck drawings just for fun. Let's see if this hasn't dried up. Because we had some kids here earlier. It's quite dry. Let's see. So, anything you want me to draw? Anything you want to see happening?
Gary Gilius.
Yes. Okay. So I can do. What's his name in German?
Daniel Düsenbrück.
Dusen.
Daniel Düsenbrück.
Okay. That means something which is rocketed. Rocket. It's some kind of a rocket motor or something. Or
Jet engine.
Jet engine. Jet engine. Okay. Let's see if the pen is still working. It's always hard to tell the size of everything. Something like that, with little heifer on his shoulder. Like that, maybe. And something else.
Could you draw Donald Duck drawing himself on the picture?
Right, okay. And this is, now you know how I feel every time when I'm drawing the ducks. You see, very artistic. So, you see, really arty-farty. So,
He's sleeping.
no, he's just very good at drawing. So this is me drawing. So that's how I feel. Like every day, believe me, it's like going from hell to heaven. You know, within every minute. It's like, oh, I'm the greatest of all, and I do things like, oh Christ. So this is really me. This is really me. Fontonald. Okay, I'll do a drawing that was actually one of my sketches for a cover. So I'll do that because I normally don't do it. How are we doing for time? Is it 5-2? 2-2? What's the time? Nobody knows what time it is. Okay, I finished.
10 minutes to 5.
10 minutes. Oh, we got plenty of time. I'll do one more then.
Scrooge.
Okay, I'll do Scrooge afterwards. You know, I never really got this about why the heck always change clothes in a phone booth. You know, must be very hard once you get tangled up in the telephone line, you know, like that. And what do they do now with mobile phones? You know, there's nowhere for Superman to change, is it? So this is a cover scribble I did years ago, and so I did that for some fans just now. Okay, so Scrooge coming up. Let's see how big I can do it.
Could you draw Mickey Mouse as well, or only ducks?
Well, I can, but I'm not really good at it. So it'll be just like the drawing you saw before, you know.
Is there a reason why you're only drawing ducks?
Oh yeah, good point. It's that in Northern Europe, the ducks are much more popular. But even though I grew up with kind of Paul Murray's Mickey Mouse, I really like that. But apart from that, you know, most of the Mickey Mouse stuff is really boring because it's like, I don't know, I grew up with Gaston, you know, with and sorry to say, but I really thought Tintin was really boring. So it's like, you know, I'd rather do Donald Duck because he's such a loser, and Mickey Mouse is such a, you know, a logo.
Actually, I think it works pretty well if he's pale goofy, because then you've got the whole straight man fool routine going.
Exactly, but when you only have him, he is just a straight man, you know. So I don't really enjoy Mickey Mouse as much as I do the ducks. And at the same time, it's very important to keep up the production of the duck stories. Yes. Okay, I'll do them as well.
What about Daisy?
Okay. Born to please. I will do all 3 of them. No, all 4 of them. Christ. Okay, so let's see. What do we have? We will. Okay. We'll actually. I'm running out of. What was that? I'll change into one of my own pens.
There are more pens on the...
Yeah, but they are blue and green and red.
Which probably doesn't work for the 3, right?
I'll do it for the colouring. But you know, with the hats. So, like this. Okay, so far so good. Better give him some eyes.
Do you have any favorite duck that you'd like to draw most?
I enjoy drawing Magica. You know the hex. What do you call it? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just what I was going to say. I like her the most, and but apart from that, it's really Donald, because, as I said before, it's not so much the actual drawing. You know, that's just the icing of the cake. It's developing the stories, and Donald Duck is the perfect hero or anti-hero. So I do prefer him. So hence what I said before concerning, you know, Mickey and all the rest.
Yeah.
Is there any other professional European Disney artist that you personally admire? Because I've got my own favorite, but I just want to...
Oh yeah, definitely Don Yipes.
Okay.
Is definitely my favorite. And apart from, what's your favorite?
Massimo De Vita.
Oh yeah, but that's a totally different ball game. You know, it's like I play football, and and that's, you know, if a tennis player is great, I wouldn't put him in the German team in the world champion. So let's see. Yeah, but I agree. But then again, Cabassano is really the father for all of them. And, in that way of drawing. But then talking about the Italians, of course, with Scarpa and Marco Rota and all of them. That's. But then again, you know, they're working for the Italian pocketbooks, and that's not what I do. Okay, so let's try to get this together somehow. Right, okay, I can do this. I know I can. I've done this before. This will be okay. You know, this is like heaven and hell, you know, like heaven and hell. So, but I can do this. I can do this. Just relax. It'll be really nice. It'll be really nice. I know it will be. Okay.
Seems like you always start with the mouth or the face.
Yeah, you should never start with the beak. Okay, remember that. Never ever do what I do. Yes.
Okay.
Because if you do that, if you start with the beak when drawing the, you know, you always end up drawing a cap.
Oh.
See, so you should never start with the beak. Never. Right. So. Something like that. And Daisy is totally impossible to use in any sort of story. Okay, end of story. She's really a bitch. And is that taking sound as well? Yes. Okay, sorry. Daisy is such a sweetheart. Yeah, she is. I love drawing Daisy. Yes. Okay.
She's okay for one pages, I assume? Like,
sorry?
For one pages, she's probably more usable.
Okay, let's think about what function does Daisy have in the stories.
Being Donald's wife.
Sorry?
Being Donald's wife.
No.
No, she's always the person that chooses between
Exactly.
Gustav and Donald, and she's always like, oh, I don't like Donald, so I'll go to Gustav.
Exactly, a
if-
bitch.
Yeah.
So it's like, but my point is that, okay, so you have a person like that, but say, is that person then the main character in the story? No, she's just there, somebody for Donald to be measured by, yeah? So when Donald and Gustav is fighting, you know, she's either the prize, which is really sickening. You have to delete this. But anyway, because it isn't really nice to have a person like Daisy, and you can't really use her for anything because her only function is to be either a prize or the one who should, you know, sort of say who is best of Gustav and Donald. So it's really old-fashioned, really. So anyway,
When writing the stories, would you be allowed to give her other
Yes.
character traits?
yes, and we are working just now to try to develop the character. So what I have even sent in ideas about her doing more like sort of a research journalist, because then if she was working for what do you call these German magazines which have lots of gossip in it and Bild, yeah. So if she was working something like that with lots of gossip and things that really are in the stories from the 50s, and I really hate it. You know, she's really just, you know, doing those kind of stuff, and then she could we could develop her into something which is much more interesting, being a real journalist, for instance. So let's see.
Excuse me,
Yep.
I just want to pick up on that notion of developing new stories first. Isn't
Yeah.
there, I mean, you're like a licensed artist for Disney,
Yeah.
so if you were supposed to develop new facets for a character,
Yeah.
especially Daisy, who really only works within the confines of the established cast,
Yeah.
you'd have to come up with like new characters to bounce her off of in different roles.
Not necessarily. It's I'm very careful about changing so much of the characters and that book, because I look upon it as a board of chess. You know, when you're playing chess, you don't want 4 kings on the board. You know, you have to have certain rules. You have Scrooge, you have the event, you have the lucky one, you have the unlucky one, you have the bad guys, the good guys. You have to stick to the format. But within that format, you can develop, like with Daisy, yes, you can develop her personality without taking in or out any other characters. As long as she doesn't double up with any of the others. She mustn't be Donald, she mustn't be any of the others. Because then you get a really messy chess playing, you know, where you have all the different pieces with different roles, yeah?
But suppose that, I mean, suppose she's supposed to be a main character, you would need some sort of antagonist for her. Would you try to use a character from the established universe?
Yes, I would.
Someone else?
I would, but because we talked about this within our production team, that it would be nice if she were to become a journalist, you know. Yes, maybe we had a photographer, maybe we had an editor, something like that, which would be someone she could play upon, you know, like getting some new actors, new pieces on the board. But I don't know, it's, you know, maybe it'll work with Scrooge as sort of the head of the whole...
Playing to your strengths and to give her a female opponent, maybe using Magica would work.
Exactly. So it's much better to do what you can do with the actual persons within Duckburg. You know, it's better to win playing chess with the chess pieces you've got instead of putting in new pieces just to win the game. You know, that doesn't really sound like the British say. It isn't cricket. You know, you shouldn't really be doing that. Okay, let's see, something like this maybe then, huh? Voila! Okay, so we are well overdue here. So, any final questions? No?
About the
Yes?
hierarchy within Disney, do you have a boss over you? Or
I don't have any
you
bosses.
to pitch ideas, or?
It's just like, okay, Disney has tried again and again to publish comics, and when comics were extremely popular in the States, they tried to take it over from the publisher Gladstone, who did it, and it really didn't work. And so now it's like Disney is really leaving it to the publishers now. So now we don't have any kind of bosses coming from Disney saying we should do so and so. As long as, you know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So as long as we don't screw up, you know, we don't hear anything. No. And for 10 years, I've never done, you know, I haven't had any kind of corrections from anyone above. The only thing was when I did the first Magica, whose name is, as I was just going to say, I had to redraw all the drawings of her because, and I said this in front of an audience, meaning that journalists picked it up, like you. And so on the front page of the newspaper the next day, it said that because I had to redraw all the pictures because I had made her skirt too long. So I had to make it shorter to make her more sexy. Headlines next day. Going to make Magic as she's known. And here in Germany she is, as everybody knows, going to make her more sexy. That was the headline on the front page of the newspaper next. So, anyway, so we are finished. We are finished. Thank you so much. Danke schön. Danke schön.
Nice. So.